Okay, we are live. We are doing this. We are excited. So, a big part of uh, our YouTubing journey or podcasting journey, whatever you want to call it, is Cobra Kai reviews. Tim and I came to our fame, if you will, uh, uh, reviewing Cobra Kai, and we've been reviewing ever since. And now, of course, season 6, the part 1 came out, and Tim has a lot of wild thoughts. And
More like one big thought.
and well, we're about to have a wild discussion about it, you know. So anyway, so Tim and Lance and I have all been watching since season 1. We all love martial arts. We love the Karate Kid franchise, and so we've been following ever since. And the cool thing I think about Cobra Kai has always been kind of the callbacks to the original shows. And as the seasons have come on, are gone
You've
on, there
run out
has
of
been,
ideas.
yeah, there's like less and less callbacks. Not that there weren't any, there still were, but now it's definitely become a lot more about the younger characters than Daniel and Johnny, and even more so about not even just like Miguel and Robbie, but also just like the multitude of, like, it feels like 100 characters that they're trying to like push forward at the same time. So so anyway, so let's just jump right in and let's talk about season 6. So here, just so everybody knows what happened. So now John Kreese escapes prison, escapes jail. Yeah,
By
right.
faking his death and playing this whole big like A-Team Mission Impossible kind of escape, which was stupid. But go ahead. Very
All right.
in the spirit of what the Karate Kid was all about. Yeah. Go ahead.
We can tell what Tim's feelings are about
I
season
said
6
this last
already.
year, just for the record. I am on record. Everything I'm about to say is exactly what I foresaw. My opinion being last year or 5 years ago, which is what the kids aged like. For what I said when the last season came out, I said they should be done, and I'll go into all the reasons why if I can remember. But that was the biggest thing is whatever I just said. The whole thing with John Kreese faking his death and all that stuff and escaping prison was just a joke. And I was like, here we go. This is the roller coaster ride that is not necessary. But go ahead. You finish your. You'll need to continue your breakdown because this is so forgettable that you'll have to remind me of what happened in this crappy show. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't think it was crappy, but hear me out.
He
It's
fakes
where
his own death.
where
Go ahead.
where we were at. He fakes his own death to get out of
Mm.
prison. Terry Silver goes to prison, and now Johnny and Daniel have kind of agreed to partner up and kind of create a hybrid dojo between Cobra Kai and Miyagi Do, and that's where we start. And so now, Lance, generally, what did you think of this season of Cobra Kai?
Thanks for having me on, Josh.
Yeah.
There's nothing funner than uh, talking with you and Tim. By the way, did you just wake up? Just
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, yeah.
so
Tim,
it's interesting. Like I'm glad you gave that recap because it's been so long since the last Cobra Kai, and season 5 was so unmemorable to me for some reason, more than any of the other seasons for some reason. I don't know why, because I can't remember. But
I know why. But go
like
ahead.
you told me like stuff just barely that I've seen the all six, was it 6 episodes or 5, the
five.
season 6 5. I
Yeah.
saw all 5 episodes, and I don't remember. I do remember that John Kreese went to jail. I don't know what happened to Terry Silver. I thought he died, but I guess not. I
No,
guess he went to
he ended up.
prison.
Yeah, he ended up going to jail. At least that's what was alluded to at the
Okay.
end of season 5. Yeah.
So yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun season, and it's not over, of course, but like I guess I didn't go in with very high expectations, and I just let it be what it is, and I was like, no,
Mhm.
it's kind of fun, and again, it probably helps, especially when you get into formulaic stuff, which Karate Kid has, or not Karate Kid, Cobra Kai has been since the beginning. Like,
It
if
had.
you're against formulaic,
Now it's
like,
mutated.
in my opinion, like, after season one, everything was formulaic after that, because that's how, especially the older television drama formats kind of are. Like, I'm kind of, I used to be uh, against that formulaic feeling in things, but I've noticed that it kind of depends on not whether or not something is formulaic, so to speak. It's more about, do you like the things that they keep doing over and over? And I think a good example of that is like Star Wars. I don't like what they keep doing over and over in Star Wars. And someone coined the phrase like lightsaber porn, meaning that they do a lot of lightsaber nonsense in the Star Wars over and over. But if you're into that kind of thing, then you probably love it, right? So
Right.
being formulaic isn't necessarily bad, and in this, it didn't bother me that much. Like you said, I'm kind of into martial arts. I noticed the martial arts improved by leaps and bounds and over this series, and especially this last one. The choreography was pretty amazing compared to, especially like if you go back to season one. And then the style has kind of changed a little bit too. It's become more Asian and less like
Mhm.
hardcore original karate style. So, it's got all the elements. It's got the drama between the teens, and you did point out that's pretty interesting that there's not as many callbacks. Although they did have the Miyagi thing,
You know
so they're
why?
like branching to new things, and
Well,
so
and there
in
there were
general,
there were a couple of them like there were like in the very first episode when Robbie's trying to go and talk to, I can't remember the kid's name, the Kenny, when he's trying to go talk to Kenny and he jumps in front of the thing. Oh, don't shoot. That was like
yeah.
that,
Tim pointed that out. I would never would have
I
caught that.
okay. Just for the record, that you're right. That I forgot that Daniel did that, but Will Smith, no, Jaden Smith did that in the other Karate Kid. And I said to Lance, because we watched it together. I said, I guarantee you, Lance or Josh didn't pick up on that Easter egg because I forgot that was in the original movie
yeah,
too. But you're right.
yeah.
I didn't realize that when Jaden Smith did that. I swear he did it in the arcade before they
I
did the
think
dance
I
off.
think he did, and that was a callback too.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I didn't even never picked up that was a callback because it was just a dumb little moment.
Well,
But
that's
so yeah, all three franchises have done that.
well, I'd appreciate if that's the last time we ever talk about the Jaden Smith debacle in this again.
That
But
show is leaps and bounds over this and last
oh,
season.
now
For
see
the
this is
oh my god,
this
hands
is what
down.
happens, Tim. This is what happens with you. You
If
have
you say
points that
contrary, I'm gonna reach through this camera and slap your face.
I want to see
This
that.
is not about contrary. This is about true to form, and
no
this
no
is
no.
being such a waste
This
of
isn't
time.
this isn't contrary. This is Tim where you tend to lose with me a little credibility because what
A
happens is
little.
because
Wait, how much
because
credibility did he start with?
yeah. What little credibility you had, you lost. No, here's the thing, because I can see your point on what you're saying. As the seasons have gone on, it's gotten a lot more campy and it becomes a little bit harder to suspend disbelief. Like at the beginning of the first couple seasons, they almost were kind of making fun of the fact that like we're all getting all hyped up over a karate tournament with teens, right? But
Right.
now it's just turned into, now it's a worldwide kumite style blood sport
It
tournament.
takes itself more seriously than the earlier, in a
Right.
bad
You
And
way.
don't think way too seriously. You just think more seriously. You don't think it's just gone ridiculous with how serious this
Well,
season
let's
is.
be honest. The original Karate Kid was that way. It always took itself
Well,
way too
listen, it was a
seriously.
simple bullying story. It was not like this big, huge, epic thing. Even the karate tournament being such a big deal in wherever they live, San
No,
Diego.
and it's easy to disprove that. Think about all the people that loved Karate Kid when they were kids. They were bullied because It was kind of campy,
yeah.
so it was easy to be
Yeah,
like,
because you can
"Oh,
relate to
Mr. Karate
that.
Kid." Blah.
You can relate to being bullied and being a new kid in town and having like other kids being like higher class and all that stuff. And I said, I think in our post when we were planning this this discussion, that's what the Karate Kid was, and it was a simple story. A boy meets a girl on the beach. The ex-boyfriend's kind of bullying the new kid, and he's like he finds a mentor, an old man in town. His mom, he's frustrated with his mom's job decisions and choices, and didn't feel involved in the decision to move out to California. All that stuff, all real life stuff. No one can relate to, hey, you're going to be chosen to go to Spain to be in this world championship, and we're going to fight the Foot Clan off. Yeah. And it's like, it's gone so big, it's ridiculous. Where now they're fighting ancient masters who were like beating up girls in North Korea or whatever. And like John Kreese is like the origins of the Foot Clan. I mean, the origins of Cobra Kai and where he learned all this crap after Vietnam. It's just gotten way too deep. It's just ridiculous. John Kreese.
By the way, shout out for John Reese, man. I loved him in this, and I love him in everything. He's just got such a presence.
He is
he's awesome.
Good. Him coming back in the second season when he first came back, and he like, yeah, you thought I was dead, right, Johnny? And then he like beats up Johnny. He eases into the Cobra Kai team, and he like kind of takes over, and he overrides or overthrows Johnny as the sensei, turns them all against him. Johnny has to go do his own thing. That was interesting, but it wasn't like the Kumite, and that's exactly what I said. It's like this thing's it's like freaking Bloodsport, and it's just gone ridiculous. It's gone way too big.
Well, I just like to point out that Bloodsport was also ridiculous, but yeah.
Bloodsport, but that's because Bloodsport knew what it was. Bloodsport didn't start to some high school kids, I guess, unless you do the flashback sequence. But the whole thing is just, you can't introduce, like in season 5, at the end of season 5, this secret worldwide huge thing that's like their greatest life dream is such a big deal for their college resume to fight the Foot Clan. Give me a break.
So I what I was saying before Tim shockingly interrupted me was that I think he's got good points. Until he goes off and says something crazy like whatever you said, I can't even remember, but it was like something like off the wall where you're like, oh, when you're saying the Jaden Smith movie, it was so much better than season 5 and 6 of Cobra Kai. That 100%. Is like no.
So here's the thing. There's more heart, there's more emotion, there's more reality, there's more applicability.
Please. Okay, here's the thing.
Okay, hang on. What did you really? Let's talk about just the general story here. If you were watching this, I know it's not finished because the most obvious reveal ever that Tori, spoiler alert, is now on the dark side again. Wow, big shocker. They had nothing else they could do, and this was my complaint with the last season. Every single one of these kids has gone from the light side to the dark side to the light side like 2 or 3 times. Every single one of them has gone through their redemption arc like once or twice or 3 times, and they've run out of characters. They've run out of drama. They've run out of tension. Every time they introduce a new kid, they have to make him the bully and have to bring him in. And in this season, episode 1, let's say if I can remember right, you'll have to remind me, Josh. Episode 1, they redeemed Kenny. Episode 2, they redeemed or they patched up the drama between Tori and Sam. Episode 3, who was the other? Johnny and Barnes. Episode 4, it's just like there's no tension. And I was calling this out to Lance. I said, oh, there's that character, there's that character, there's that character. They had nothing to do except for say, oh, Tori's mom died and she couldn't get out her rage by fighting, and so now she's magically back with Cobra Kai
okay. So here's the thing. Here is the thing.
Because we already did this in season 3 or 4.
So I think that despite the fact that the whole world is just a little over the top, a lot over the top with this whole big like worldwide tournament.
Tournament that like Chikakuchi or whatever it is. It's not even a cool name.
Yeah, and it's like all of these things where it's like the origin of the Cobra Kai and the origin of all this stuff. I think that the development of the characters as they go all make like a lot of sense. I find it interesting that like hold on, don't start interrupt because I know you can't help listening to someone else. So no, I'm saying, like, for example, I thought it was super interesting that Mike Barnes gets into the training and then kind of goes back to being a bad boy and realizes, like, man, as I'm doing this, I kind of go back into my old self situation. I also think it's interesting that Johnny seems to be, as he's kind of, I liked the whole thing of Johnny wanting to make Eagle Fang and then that ridiculous Eagle Miyagi or Miyagi Fang or whatever. I thought that was hilarious, but I thought it was really,
You know, it was hilarious.
I thought the picture,
poster, the logo,
the poster was so stupid. It just looked so dumb, right?
With
I thought
Mr.
that was
Miyagi
hilarious.
with fangs.
Yeah, right.
That
And
one.
so I thought that was silly.
But did you think it was a good little story to have the kids be like, we voted for this thing, and now Miyagi or Daniel and Chosen had to be like, well, we have to give him this one, and like they had to get into a fight over whether or not to use that stupid logo. Was that really like this? Was that really or worthy of this show and the good story that this show has done so far? That was a stupid little arc. It was a dumb point.
I thought it was a good arc, and here's why I thought it was a good arc. I thought it was good because it showed Daniel and Chosen coming to the understanding that Miyagi-Do is not about the name.
That conversation was great. They couldn't have written a better concept to illustrate that and to have that tension instead of that stupid drawing.
No, I thought that was funny because that was a ridiculous drawing that just like Johnny would totally love. Like that's what I thought.
And they were like, we're gonna throw away our traditions and honor to go along with this ridiculous drawing because it was funny.
But they weren't doing it because they were funny, and I don't think they were necessarily doing it because they were.
The writers thought it was funny, and you said it was funny. It's stupid.
Yeah, but I thought that's what made it so funny was that it was stupid. Like
it should have been serious. It should have been something real to bring up that drama between those three characters. I also thought it was interesting.
It wasn't about it wasn't about the drawing. It was about the tension between Daniel and Johnny trying to come back together. Which they're
forcing. When they almost got into a fight, didn't you feel like we have to have a Johnny and Daniel fight every single season, and they're running out of ideas on why to have them fight?
I agree that like it was some of the in general, some of the things were a little forced. They felt a little forced. But I also agree that, in general they made a good thing out of it, like you're saying, Josh. I agree with Tim that like it was a little forced, like the Miyagi-Do thing, because they've already kind of done that with the Eagle Fang thing. It's the same. It's
which was hilarious last time.
But I do agree that it was very nice how they solved that and how Johnny really starts to like calm down in this one. I think more than any other season, he really starts to like find his zen and kind of shines more than any of the other older characters in this one.
Miyagi-Do.
Well, I
not
thought
just
it was
that, other things, but yeah, that's one of them.
I thought it was good because I thought that the arc was great, and him coming in and saying, "No, Eagle Fang is just another Cobra Kai, and I don't want it." And that's John Kreese's legacy, and I don't want anything to do with John Kreese's legacy. I thought that was great. I also
you thought that he was gonna go into the forest and do his thing, right? So they kind of changed averted your expectations there. So the way they handled that was kind of nice, and I like the logo. It looks a lot better than.
I like the idea that that Chosen and Daniel were willing to concede, and then Johnny came in and he actually conceded before they had a chance to say it. Yeah. And so they came out with it, and I like the new logo with the eagle over the bonsai tree. I think that's
it looks really nice. Cool. It's got good graphic design.
But like, but I'm just saying, it was the whole idea with that the drawing that the kids did, and then and Johnny being like, the concept of the Eagle Fang, which was like a year old. It's just it was just a weak device to get that moment out of it. I just think I'm just saying they're running out of ideas, and it's just stupid. The gag was the poster, which you could have just thrown the poster out there or the logo, had that be a gag, and write something better if you want to get to that moment. But I still feel like the whole thing was forced. The whole thing with Johnny and Daniel and Chosen working together. We did that last season, and you even had Barnes last season. You had the four of them working together, and it was really cool. Now we're like, oh, well, we need to have some tension because we have to fill some episodes because we got to get the rest of the season.
I thought it was a great way to bring Mike Barnes in. It made a lot of sense. They're like, okay, so we're going to bring him in to kind of figure out who these 6 people are going to be that are going to come through. We'll let him try it out. He's a tournament guy. So he knew what he was, he knew more of what he was doing as far as tournaments go.
And then he's like, my life dream was to fight in the Chi Kong Chi or whatever it's called. I was like, this has never come up before. Now it's like everyone's like biggest life goal. I'm like, give me a break.
Right. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out about Johnny, which I noticed as I was going through it, especially when Daniel was arguing with his wife about Johnny still having all of his old issues, was that, like, in the original Karate Kid, Daniel had a lot of his own issues too that Mr. Miyagi had to work through, right? So, like, right now, as Johnny is embracing Miyagi-Do, it's an interesting dynamic because Daniel is kind of the Mr. Miyagi here, even for Johnny, but they're kind of peers. So it's almost like a Miyagi and Sato situation than it is anything else.
Who's Sato?
Sato is the guy from Karate Kid 2, Mr. Miyagi's best friend.
And rival.
And rival, yeah. And so who trained together. So I like that dynamic there, and I like the kind of moving back and forth. I did think it was a little bit of a stretch when Daniel punched him in the face, and then he's like, I'll get through this tournament for them, but then after that, we're done for good over
Why was that a
that little squabble.
Totally be done with this co-parenting dojo crap.
What I
like the idea of them being like, let's let Johnny take over the dojo, and I will go back to selling cars.
So the other thing and that one kind of confused me too, because they're talking as if like they're going to go and they're going to create, potentially a bunch of dojos out of this, right? But if they're really trying to do Mr. Miyagi's legacy, that was not Mr. Miyagi's interest.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, I guess you could make an argument that it is an interest if they're just going to train people, but if the idea is that they're going to send them to tournaments and do all that different stuff, like
exactly
that's not a, I don't think that
hang
is
on,
in the spirit
Josh.
of Mr. Miyagi.
You're forgetting the big reveal that Mr. Miyagi also fought in the Kumite and shed blood in the blood sport. So now it's like we don't know who Mr. Miyagi is all this time, which is the dumbest turn that they took in this season. It's awful.
I'm just happy that.
What are your thoughts on it?
Like with the Kumite, is that what it's called? Something like that.
No, Bloodsport is the Kumite, and this is the Chi Chang Chi.
Whatever the foreign tournament. I'm just happy that they're finally having actual martial artists that aren't from the United States. And like stuck in this little like even in the Karate Kid with Jackie Chan, whatever that one's called, that was so like not representative of like, so the black kid from America comes and just shows the Chinese how karate is done and wins all the tournaments against them.
No, you need to rewatch
that was my biggest problem with that one. And me and Tim have argued for a million years about this, but that's another story. Yeah, so at least in this one, they have like the Koreans, and the Koreans have their own thing, right? And of course, they're going to come together and fight in this big tournament. I'm also kind of interested to see like what other characters they're going to introduce, because there's more than just the Koreans they're against. Maybe those are the big bad guys, and that's why they've introduced them now. But there are new heads that we're seeing. Some of the other characters have kind of taken a back seat. Like me and Tim talked about Miguel. Miguel was barely in this one. I guess he was a little bit with his college thing, but Tori obviously was a big one. But some of the other ones have kind of like taken the back seat. And what's the girl that has like I made fun of her because she has a boy's name, and the
Sam?
Asian girl. No.
The gymnast, the girl that was here. Like, you weren't watching me play flag football well enough.
She was like
that girl,
a bad guy, and the one that's like that doped the other guy, the black kids drink, so that he had to. So I mean, I'm kind of interested just to see what characters. We made the joke like they could only have 12 people. Only 12 people could go. I'm like, well, let's find out which one of these characters didn't sign their contract.
He's like,
we didn't re-sign their contract with Netflix.
Characters, And like, okay, I bet you it's the named characters. All of the characters that on
Yeah.
the IMDb don't say karate student, that they actually are named characters. They're the ones who are going to be picked. And then when Hawk wasn't picked, and
I thought Hawk had not signed a contract. I thought, okay, well, obviously he didn't sign a contract, so Netflix is kicking him off. But no, they brought him back on. So yeah.
He's a favorite, of course.
But that was the thing, though. That what I was trying to say before was that what I loved about this episode or this season was everybody's story moved forward in a pretty good way in this kind of insane world. So I actually liked the whole issue of Miguel is trying to get into Stanford, like and all of that, and that kind of gave him, that was kind of a struggle for him and also for Johnny and Carmen, right? Because they're like, how are we going to afford this? How are we going to, and he's trying to figure out how to make things work, which is why he goes and gets the job with Daniel. But then you also have, Tori's issue with her mother, which I thought was actually really an interesting way I like that too. And the only one, and I've said this forever, like the one, and also Robbie, like Robbie is just kind of like him with Miguel, where Miguel has all these, like, he's smart and he's done all the right things. Robbie's kind of done all the wrong things. And so Robbie's kind of in this situation where he's like, well, what about me? I need this. And the idea that he's always coming in second, right? He needed to win this time. Like, I thought that was also really good.
Second.
He lost. He was, yeah, he did. He came in second to Miguel in the first All Valley, and then he came in second to Hawk in the second one. So he has
the whole thing where he makes that line is like, what? Just because you're going to college, I don't need this. It's like, this is a stupid worldwide dumb Foot Clan tournament.
But the thing,
like the fun of your life, and I think that whole thing too is like, what does he want him to give up the fight or like?
Yeah, we made the joke like, I hope they all get their scholarships to these colleges in karate, because they always hand out those karate scholarships when you're trying to get into a college.
Josh, you're enjoying the movement forward of all these characters, but what I'm telling you is what we're getting is Saved by the Bell, the college years. I don't need to watch these kids go into like every stage of their life because it's getting stupid and boring. Of course they're gonna.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was stupid and boring at all. I thought it was interesting
compared to the first few seasons where you have Robin.
Oh, okay. Listen, the first
that's like daddy issues and stuff. Now we're like, did you get accepted to MIT?
I get the feeling, and I don't know why. I get the feeling that Tim didn't like this one.
That's because it's stupid. I said last season, and I went back and I just watched the footage on chapter 135 of Saints Less Cinema. I went back and I watched the end. I said they ran out of material before this season. Season 5, I believe, was when they were really dried up and they pushed way too hard. And then I was mad. If you remember, I was mad because that they had a cliffhanger for a 6th season. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Wrap it up. This is dumb. Like I said, all the characters have already been balanced. You have to keep introducing new characters to be the villains, and you have to keep redeeming every character. And Josh, you said last season, you're like, I still need to see John Kreese's redemption. Why? We don't need every single, and that's not real life. Every character in the world doesn't have to be redeemed. And now they have to introduce the Bangs, the Asian kid. Now he's the new villain.
You look like him remarkably, actually, when you do that.
This was my life.
All I could say, as long as you put John Kreese in it, I don't care what he's doing. He's got such a stage presence. He's awesome.
Can we talk about the snake in the Dagobah cave sequence, please, Josh? Go ahead.
Well, that wasn't all. But that was all. Wasn't that all just in his head? Like, that wasn't actually.
Yeah, like he had a drug and
it was a day.
Empire Strikes Back when Luke went into the cave and he all the.
Here we go. Back to Ryan Johnson in the last.
That's what it was. It's stupid. I mean, in Star Wars, it was fine. This is like. Did he plant that snake? The old man planted that snake like months ago because he, to send any random students in there.
No, it was a hallucinogenic thing. He wasn't.
You don't think the snake was actually there?
No, I don't think it was actually there.
So,
Oh.
so what caused his little mind trip when he went into the room? Is there some aerial drugs in there? Is it the heat exhaustion from the journey in the first place? Did he spike
Maybe.
into something before he left?
I didn't-
Or is it
I
they run
didn't
out of
do that.
ideas and this is just stupid?
You know, Tim, I want to go back to your hair for a second.
Okay.
I just want to go back and
my hair while you
I
try to
just-
justify
I just-
how
I
that
just-
sequence
Finish
made
the
any
thought,
sense.
Josh. Finish the
I
thought.
just want to say you look like you belong in like a '90s like teen Bob magazine.
I've been growing my hair out. It's
Like
true.
you want to talk about Saved by the Bell, like anyway.
Well, no, this is Josh. This is still my continuation of my Johnny Depp solidarity haircut ever since the trial. I've been growing it and keeping it long ever since then.
Okay, well,
So your fans can cancel me. I don't care. But anyway, but seriously, let's talk. I want to talk about that whole flashback sequence with the young kids, with Johnny and Terry, and like leading into how he just ran into this Foot Clan training sequence, and then
he had been trained with them. He had trained with them. He was coming back. That was not like his first opportunity being there. He'd been there before. I think they showed that in season 5. That's how he had a connection to all those Korean people who came over in season 5.
They showed it in flashbacks in this season as well. That with the girl and the master smacking him and all that.
And you didn't think that was a little cliche, having that ancient master that was just like the guy from Kill Bill 2?
Yeah, I mean, these are formulas that all these movies borrow from each other. Like, it's not a matter of, it's formulaic, so it's bad. It's a matter of, it's formulaic, and I don't like the formula, but that's just your personal opinion.
What I'm saying is Karate Kid had its own formula and its own vibe, its own themes, and that worked, its own tone. The first few seasons of Cobra Kai had its own that kind of felt familiar but new and refreshed with the new kids, with its own tone and everything. This is ridiculous. What they've done the last couple seasons is just jump the shark, and it's just terrible.
What this is
it's not the same show as the first few seasons of Cobra Kai.
Right.
That's true, but I'm all right with it.
You know what this is to me? This is, we've gone from Rocky 1 and 2, and we've gone to Rocky 3 and 4, where it's clear 80s campy, ridiculous, but also still awesome.
This is not. But what I'm saying is, Cobra Kai seasons 1 through 3 and 4 were not the same kind of campy as what this garbage is. This is
I know,
okay with that.
But Rocky 1 and 2 were not campy like 3 and 4. Like
what was so different about 3 and 4 from 1 and 2? Because
they went from drama. Tim, they had Eye of the Tiger in Rocky 3, and he's
Rocky 2.
Hold on, no, he was
right. Sorry.
They started with Eye and the Tiger fighting Mr. T, and then Rocky 4, he's fighting communism in the form of Dolph Lundgren.
Like, I can't vouch for Rocky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that but the thing is we love it, even though Rocky 4 was wildly accepted as so ridiculous 80s Americana, everybody loves it. And that's what this is. They've gone over the top crazy with 80s references. There were references to Lethal Weapon in this one. There were references that were, there was a part where they talk about, he goes, like Lethal Weapon, this is like Lethal Weapon 2 or whatever. And then Daniel comes out.
I'm getting too old for this. Yeah,
exactly.
And Tim is getting too old for this, obviously.
Yeah, or even obviously also like the chicken chasing, like they had that.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Rocky 2.
Yeah, so they're throwing you're right, like you're like, this looks like just some ridiculous 80s, like the Kumite. Yeah, they're throwing a bunch of 80s stuff in there.
This is mutate into that garbage. That stuff works.
Why not? Sure you can. Because they did.
But if you're doing that, all you're doing is making this a cash cow. And this started as a passion project from fans. The writers and the creators loved Cobra Kai. They were Billy Zabka had a lot of heart into what he felt about Johnny. And then
did they change producers?
What?
Did they change producers on this one?
No. I don't think
so. You said it started out as a passion, and then
here's what I think. Cash grab.
Wait, but I don't think that's necessary. Well, maybe it is true, but I think that The thing is, though, is what they've done now is they've transitioned into a classic 80s martial arts
Sitcom.
show. Yeah, it's a martial arts sitcom.
And
Like,
that's not
so
what the
they've
CrossFit
become like Bloodsport, American Ninja, like Best of the Best. They even showed video of Best of the Best, right? And Best of the Best 2 on there. So I mean,
I didn't know what
they
that
were,
was.
yeah, that's actually a really,
And that's
if you like 80s martial, it's like a Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, now it's become more of a martial arts show than it was before. And the thing is I'm okay with that because in the
You're an
still within the
apologist for this show, Josh. I said that last
oh,
season.
I am
You
not an
are.
apologist.
They can do.
Well,
they
if
can
he
have
is, then I am too,
aliens
and I don't
come
even
down
love this show
and
nearly
fight
as
with
much as you guys.
lightsabers.
No, the
Anything
thing
fine.
is,
This
no,
could
the
turn
thing
into
is,
a Fast and Furious franchise. They can drive cars and hot rod all over and drive
yeah,
safes
because
all over town, and you would
no,
still be like, it's still Cobra Kai.
no, the thing is because you are focusing on the world of it, and I am focusing on the characters of it. And I
I'm
think that
focusing on the tone, and you're more concerned about
no,
how their
you're
college resumes look because that's so engaging about high
so
school drama.
I would like to finish what I was saying before you jump in. I
Well,
know
I'll let you,
I'm having Saints on Cinema trauma here.
I'll
No,
restrain myself. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
no,
Say what you want.
I'm just saying that I think that these are all things. What we're seeing is the culmination of things that all of these characters have been talking about since season 1. Like Dimitri and Hawk have been talking about being the, what do you call them, the binary brothers or whatever, from the very beginning, and going to MIT together from the very beginning. That was something that they've always
Fine
been
with
saying.
that.
Yeah. So like, and Miguel has always been incredibly smart and trying to get to a good school. That was all thing. Robbie, now what we're seeing is there.
Did you say that was always the thing? Miguel trying to get into college?
Well, it was
never
always the thing that
before.
okay, Tim, he was a smart kid that always got good grades. Like he would, and they were always talking about how smart he was and how he was going to be destined for bigger things. So yeah, like what you're seeing now is they're all older. No, they're using the ideas that they've already planted and they're coming to fruition. Now everybody's seeing the consequences of all of these actions. Now Robbie is seeing that he's not going to get the same opportunities as Miguel. Now Tori is seeing that her and Sam are in different views too. Now we're seeing that, Johnny is trying to get away from his ways of Cobra Kai and trying to find a new way. And what I find really interesting about Johnny, I wrote this down, is like Johnny to me is Daniel was always rough around the edges in Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid. He was rough around the edges, and Mr. Miyagi had to work through those things. Like the scene where he's first learning how to punch, and then he's being all goofy, and then he pulls him down, and then he sweeps him, and then goes, "I think you dance too much. I think you talk too much. Your tournament's coming up." All that stuff. You're seeing that from Johnny, from his way now, right? Like he's still struggling of getting rid of all these old ways of his, and they're permeating in, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. So you're seeing kind of a progression of all of these different characters. The only ones the one that I don't like, if I was to say there are two characters that I don't like, one original and one from this series, and I've always been I've never been a fan of Sam. I've always thought that she was just
oh no, that's Tim's favorite character. And he hates me every time I say anything bad about her.
No, Sam.
I'm not going to say on air what you say about her because I don't.
Well, everybody's saying it, so you know what I'm saying.
No. Sam to me is just so uninteresting. She's just a whiny girl. You know what I mean?
Like she's her dad, actually.
Is that boring? Sorry, she hasn't gone to jail like Robbie, or like gone back and forth with the women like Miguel, or had this amazing tension of, am I going to go to MIT or go to a college or a community college? So exciting.
No, like these are all things that I think are legitimate issues teenagers deal with. Like,
hang on,
like the idea of hold on. Like for example, Dimitri and Hawk, right? They're buddies. Hawk wants to go a different way. Dimitri's upset. That is a classic thing between best friends. Yep. Same with like Miguel. Like he doesn't have all the advantages. He got waitlisted to Stanford. That's scary. I know what it's like to be waitlisted. I was waitlisted in a couple law schools I wanted to go to. Like those are things that that
What is waitlisted? Like they're
like
going to defer their decision on college.
Yeah. So at the end of the episode 5, or in episode 5 or 4, I can't remember which one, Miguel comes in and said he was deferred, which means they didn't say yes or they didn't say no.
Right.
I do agree that it's kind of ridiculous that they're sitting there and going like, oh, well, maybe, extracurriculars now are super important. If you win this worldwide karate tournament, maybe they'll take you. Like, Stanford doesn't care about your karate tournament in Barcelona.
That's the
you know what I mean?
That's the joke that I made with the scholarship. Like, they're not going to give you a karate scholarship to Stanford.
Right.
What so I'm saying is, like, having that be something between Dimitri and Hawk, I like that because they were the nerdy kids, and now they have this karate thing on top of that to help them burst out of their shells and develop some confidence and some I don't know, some identity, you could say, in high school, and they can carry that on and be more confident in their careers and in college. That's great. But having this be the same conversation and circle with each of these characters is boring.
They're all going to college. They're all at that age.
I know, but I'm saying, like, having each one with a little different turn on it, that's, again, Saved by the Bell college years. And the friendship thing, that was I remember when Boy Meets World did that, and it was awesome when Corey and Sean were going to different schools, and one was going to make it to as good of a school as, like, Topanga and Corey or whatever, when Sean was having that ordeal. And that was interesting, but, like, not every single character for, like, the whole show was about their college resumes. And that's what this is. It's because they have nothing else to do with these characters because they're dried up. The reason you don't like Sam is because there's nothing for her to do now. But do you remember a couple seasons ago when she was dealing with the PTSD from Tori, and it was really well done, and she had all that tension, and she, like,
I don't remember it being well done. No.
You what?
I don't remember it being well done. No.
Oh, please. Way better than all this crap.
I really like.
That you said is good. What is done well now. This stuff
there are a couple of moments.
She was way better the first 2 times they did this with Tori.
There were a couple of moments in this season that, like, gave me the feels that I think they did really well, and one was between Tori and Sam when the sleepover thing. It felt a little like. They keep trying to do the Johnny thing, and it just doesn't work very well in this season. But they did have that sleepover, and it was funny how he was trying to constantly get them to fight each other. But then at the end, that moment when they actually did have a conversation in a heart-to-heart, like, I thought that was really well done.
That was a good conversation.
And the other one with Tori, again, is with her mom, like, when her mom died and you feel it. And I know Tim didn't like her acting when she jumped on the tournament stage and said, "My mom died," or whatever. I thought it was actually pretty well done, though, that whole scene.
No, my problem was just the execution of all of it. It wasn't her specifically. But
that moment on the stage when she's, like, dealing with her mother's death, and I loved how Johnny's like, and I totally agree, because I feel like I'm a little bit that way. Like, people deal with grief differently, and Johnny understood it. He got it.
Yeah.
She needed to fight, and stupid LaRusso, man, like, he's just clueless. He's like, no, I read this psychology textbook that says this is how you deal with grief. It was kind of like that, and Johnny's like, no, you don't understand, LaRusso. Some people, they need to fight. I remember when my parents were killed, I needed to fight. I needed to get in the tournament and do that. And so I thought the way they handled that was really awesome. And
let's beat me up.
And there was some good drama there.
No, I think I like the stuff where it was, the timing was a little cheesy, but whatever. It's television. But, like, when what's her name, the wife, got the call from the hospital for whatever reason. And
why did she get the call?
Isn't that breaking some laws somewhere? Or you're the lawyer, Josh. You tell us.
But when she told Daniel, and Daniel's like, "No, we got to stop the fight." I thought that was really good done, well done. It was really well done, because when, like, Daniel's reaction is very different from Johnny's. Johnny understands that rage, that you got to get that out, but Daniel also understands being when you're mad and hot-headed, which he has been in the movies and throughout the stupid show. No, I'm sorry, I like the first half of the show, but he understands.
You said it. It's on record.
I've said it. Everything I felt about this show is all on record. But where Daniel's coming from a place where he knows that you can say things you don't mean and get mad, and you can come home and kick the paint cans when Miyagi's gone fishing. Which one? I want to go fishing, and all that stuff. Like, when you have a bad experience or bad things going on in your life, he understands that you can, rage out and it's a bad thing. Johnny understands that you're getting something out when you're doing that. That's a coping mechanism. I like that both of them had a different approach. And I think Tori did need to fight, but I don't think the fight with Sam is like, for this purpose, was like really the way to do that. That's why in these movies they go off and they go punch trees and stuff like that.
That's because you're LaRusso in this.
Don't ever say that again.
No,
but
I do not stand by most of what Daniel does and says. What I'm saying is, from a writing perspective, I can see why both of them had a different reaction to what was going on. And when he was like on the stand saying, "No, they got to stop the fight," and Johnny's like, "Why?" And then he told me, he's like, "No, it's up to her." And I agree with that. Yeah. I just think it's unfair to Sam because Sam was like, "No, Sam agreed with LaRusso. I don't think this isn't the time to fight."
I don't think that was the Sam moment. I don't think it had anything to do with Sam. That moment, I don't think had anything to do with Sam.
It absolutely did. Sam hears that her mother just died, and she's a warm-hearted, open person who just reconnected with Tori. She's not going to want to say, "Okay, now let's fight for this position as the team captains." Just now, Sam's not in the right mood for this kind of a thing. She's in a completely different mindset where this person is weeping. Or she's grieving. She doesn't want. This is a dumb time for Sam to want to fight her. She's like, okay, well, I don't. It's like she's gonna dismiss
Careful,
her.
Tim. Careful. I feel like you're starting to like a piece of this season. Be careful, Tim.
The writers being out of ideas. This is not one of those examples. Tori's mom dying is right in par with the things that they've done with Tori's character for 3 or 4 seasons now.
All I hear is you actually secretly love this season.
You know what I liked about that was, that's why I didn't have a problem with her going back to Cobra Kai, and the reason for that is there's a couple of reasons for that, right? There's some things that I see in these characters that Tim's blind rage is not allowing him to see.
Obvious predictability and recycled stories.
No, here's what I'm saying, right? What Tori is right now, right, is she's lost. She just lost her mom. She doesn't have she's looking for parents.
She doesn't have college to fall back on like everybody.
She doesn't have it. She doesn't. But the thing is, 2 seasons ago, she was lost because she was taking care of her mom, and that was a stressful thing. This time, her mom is dead. She doesn't have really any family anymore.
She still has her sister or brother.
She doesn't have her purpose.
Let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought. So she doesn't have that now. She's looking for that anywhere. And so far, the only one who has put her first in her mind, I mean, she had that little tiff with John Kreese where she's like, I came to you. And he was like, well, you're going to have to figure that out on your own. He's the only one who has shown any interest in placing her first.
He planted that seed on purpose too.
Right. So she's over there and she just sees Sam. I mean, think about it, right? Who are the 2 people who are the captains right now? Oh, look, it's Johnny and Daniel's kids. Yeah. Right? I mean, right? So she's looking.
She quit.
Well, but my point is, though,
doesn't matter.
What did she say? What did she say at the end? Oh, you're just doing this because that's your kid, right? You're doing this because you're favoring your kid. You're always going to favor your kid. Robbie was Johnny's kid, and he's now over there, being a captain. So she bails and she goes to John Kreese, right? And I think didn't John Kreese even say something about that, about them having their kids over there and her not being one of them and all that stuff? I mean,
he didn't mention kids, but he did say, well, sooner or later you're going to find out that you're not one of them and you won't fit in.
Don't care about you or whatever.
Yeah, he set it up.
Yeah, and so my point is that like, so that's why I think that the switch makes sense because.
Maybe he did mention their kids.
She is a conflicted character. She doesn't know where to go. She's lost. She's trying to find her way, and she keeps messing up.
And all lost the writers because they already did this.
No, but the thing is they did it before. But this is her character arc. She doesn't know where to land.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and that's the whole point, right? Is that they don't know how to land. Everybody in these characters. What I like about these characters is nobody is all good and nobody is all bad. They all make mistakes. They all do stupid things, and they eventually get redeemed. It's very much a real life story in that
No,
way.
it's not. That's not
Well,
real life.
it's not a real life story in the context of a worldwide karate
No,
tournament.
it's not a real life
but-
that everyone gets redeemed. Look at everyone you went to high school with. Go on Facebook and tell me that all of them were redeemed.
No, but what I'm saying is it's a nice story that they do. It's an aspirational story that everybody does have an opportunity to change.
Maybe,
I
Tim,
think
we don't
that's-
know.
remember-
Maybe in the next life they'll get redeemed. I don't judge.
How many times has Tim gone to the dark side and we keep welcoming him back? It's been like 4 or 5 times over the last decade.
Yeah. Go back to the original trilogy. You had multiple characters that had bad things happen, and some of them they had a little.
Wait, are we talking Star Wars or Karate Kid?
We could talk about either, but because it's the same storyline. Because the seduction of Tori and Robbie was the exact same as the seduction of Anakin by Palpatine, but we don't need to get into that. We've already talked about that in our show. But I'm saying that when you had at the end of Karate Kid 1, Johnny coming back and saying, you're all right, LaRusso, that moment, that's a big deal. And we've talked about that many times before, Josh, on air. But that moment is a big redeeming moment for Johnny. And if I remember right, that was something that was insisted on by Billy Zabka. He said, let me hand him the trophy. If I remember, I might be wrong about that. Then you had the second movie where Chosen, we had Sato's redemption, but Chosen took off into the darkness. And then he got beat in the last fight. But like, I'm okay with this being a alternate Elseworld story of the Karate Kid universe, where this is a possible thing that happened with Chosen, but I'm also okay with the idea of Chosen just being this failed student that never came back, and it's just a disappointment to Sato, because guess what? In real life, there are parental figures that have children that are wayward and never come back in this lifetime, and that's relatable. And then the third movie, you had Daniel was the one that was like kind of twisted, and he was being corrupted, and he had to come back and reunite with Miyagi. And then you had Barnes, and you had Terry Silver and Kreese that were against him, and none of them like came back, but they were defeated. It made a good story, and you cared about the characters, and you saw different variations of possible outcomes. But this show, it's recycled. Every character goes to the dark side and comes back, to the dark side and comes back, to the dark side and comes back, and everyone's all tight. And like I was telling Lance, the beginning montage of the first episode of this season was like, isn't it nice, a wonderful day in California, how everything's we're all better people, we're all friends, we all carry each other's books, and we're not fighting each other. And then they have to have this little fight at the batting cage, and now we're friends again. A little fight at the slumber party, and now we're friends again. A little fight, Johnny and what's his name in the wood shop with the stupid spinning blade that was like a bomb that never went off. Like,
yeah, I was like, is he gonna try to cut off his arm?
Really weird. I was like, we're going Jackie Chan.
I like the way they did that, because it adds tension to the scene. But another thing, like, I disagree with Tim in that there are a couple of plot lines I'm really interested in, 2 or 3. One is I am interested in the in-fight of the international duel fight, to see what they do with it. But I'm also interested in this like Johnny and LaRusso theme, where LaRusso didn't really grow much in this season, but Johnny did. Johnny made some like significant like compromises to become more of a pacifist, so to speak. Whereas like even I thought it was hilarious when he's like selling cars better than LaRusso is. Like he's selling, he gets the job and immediately he's like sold a car to a lady effortlessly. And so I'm like, oh, are they gonna like turn this around where like Johnny becomes the really, really good guy? And I know this is a repeat, but are they gonna really push it where, hey, LaRusso's the whiny, terrible, and again, Tim's right, it's formulaic, but this is a little bit different. There's something about it that's interesting to me, and I want to see where they take that.
Okay.
Well, I hold on. That also, I was gonna say, I do like I'm holding judgment on this Miyagi secret thing until I see where it actually goes. Yeah,
right, let's talk about Johnny before we go into that. I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about Johnny.
But with the thing, what I want to say about Daniel was, what I think is interesting is Daniel is acting poorly a lot here, but also recognizing that this whole Miyagi thing has thrown him through a loop and he's conflicted. And everybody deals with grief differently. We already said that. And so it's interesting to watch, like Tori dealt with her grief one way, Miguel with his issues with the not getting into the college he wanted is dealing with that another way. The way Dimitri's handling that Hawk is bailing on MIT, or at least it looks like he is at this point, and all of these different things. By the way, if I was going to say one thing that I thought was the most ridiculous thing, I thought the most ridiculous thing was the fight with Kyler and Brooks when they're like at the community college. And I thought that whole thing where he said he went to MIT and it ended up being some like, I just was like, this is that. I was like, that is just that's dumb.
But that Bo, or did they change actors?
No, that's Bo. Yeah,
okay, he looked very different. I was like,
yeah, well, he's aged I know. 6 years.
First thing let's talk about that.
No, hang on. I want to talk about Johnny real quick. The thing with Johnny, and as you were talking about this growth and all this stuff, what you guys are forgetting is from the beginning of the show to getting the courage to go out with Carmen, because he was all arrogant and confident trying to pick up chicks and stuff, but like going out with Carmen with Miguel's mom was a big deal. Like that was a big step for like that kind of relationship where he was like actually interested in her, and then developing that relationship into where they got serious, and now they're having a baby. Now he's looking at buying a house and everything, all this stuff that he never cared about before. He's already showed this big growth and maturity as he's getting balance in his life. And it has nothing to do with, did I get the name Cobra Fang in the new poster for the new dojo? I like the idea that he's like, one thing I'm good at and passionate about is karate. That was from the first season and the first episode. That was the whole thing. It reminded him of what he really wanted to do. And he put his stepdad's check back together so he could go invest and start the dojo, which is why I like the idea of his. Yeah, he can sell cars because he likes cars and he's a charismatic guy.
Well, I think the one thing about it is he's starting to become a better LaRusso than LaRusso is.
No,
like
I don't.
He's being better at the kind of stuff that LaRusso is doing.
It wasn't about him being a better salesman than Daniel was. Daniel doesn't go out and sell cars. He runs the freaking business. And that's what I like about it is like they're settling back into Daniel. When this stupid tournament's over, because this has been the big climax, which we introduced at the end of the last season. This is a big series climax. Daniel can go back to running a business. Johnny doesn't belong selling cars. He should go into teaching karate because that's what he's always been passionate about since he was a little kid, since he rode his little bike up to the Cobra Kai studio with correct mentors and with the correct dogma to train and teach. Now he can teach something and teach balance that he's now been on both sides of multiple studies. And now he can teach valuable lessons about something he's passionate about, and that should be his job.
But they point even that out, that he's teaching the students better than LaRusso. Like he's, and I know that they're taking over, and then LaRusso's in the background, like secretly only teaching his kids and his special picks, and they point that out. So they're setting it up, and I kind of like it. I'd like to see where it goes.
But they've been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah, but I think also that, again, like when you dig deeper to what's going on in these characters, it's actually much deeper than that. You have to realize that Johnny has hated Daniel LaRusso for most of all of his adult life since he was 16, 17. And now, sure, now they've kind of settled into we're friendly, and now they're joining up to, it's like it's more of the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing and joining. And he's also, and understand, like Johnny has been a very independent, I mean, he's been a mess, but he's been an independent guy. He's had his own dojo. He's had his own students. And now he's coming into what was his enemies thing. And there's a little bit of a push and pull there, right? So this whole idea, you say, oh, well, they're fighting over a logo. For Johnny, it's much more than a logo. It's not losing. He doesn't want to be swallowed up by Miyagi-Do. He wants to keep his views as a part of it because they're supposed to be a partnership. And you see that when Daniel comes up to him and says, hey, look, I might be your boss over at the dealership, but here you're my partner. I need to treat you that way.
But they did that 2 seasons ago where they came together and they had their back and forth, their yin and yang and what they're teaching them, and they compromised and came together and found that balance. That was the whole reason Sam won the fight. Well, that she was going to win the fight against Tori is because she applied both teachings, and they showed, look, you can be more effective, and they both learned that lesson 2 seasons ago. Now we're like,
this is a little more nuanced.
Danny and Johnny were like, different. Hey, maybe we don't like each other. We've gone every season. They have to pull apart and get in a fight, and pull apart and
Yeah,
get in a fight every season.
Of course they do.
Yeah,
It's
but-
Cobra Kai. That's the formula
That's
that
my
they set.
point. Out of
That's our
idea. That's what I'm
expectation.
saying.
Well,
No, your point is that that's bad. Our point is that that's not necessarily bad. Just because
Yeah.
it's
The
formulaic
sixth
doesn't
time,
mean
I'm
it's
done
bad.
with it.
well, and the other thing is also like again, that's true form to real life. You don't have friends that you've fought over the same things more than once.
never-
No, I don't.
but that's what I'm saying, right? Is that like you're like, well, they already did that 2 seasons ago, right? And 2 seasons ago,
No,
they
they've
were
done it
trying
every
to figure.
season. The balance in the karate has been very well done 2 seasons ago. But I'm saying that back and forth with Johnny. Okay, we got it. Now they're kind of growing and learning their
But
friends.
yeah, last time was about the balance in the karate. This time it's about the balance in
different.
who's leading. Yeah,
Oh,
it's about what.
marketing. It's marketing.
It's a different
now.
nuance.
No, it's
I'm
not.
with you
It's
on
not
this one.
marketing. It's not marketing.
Another reason to fight. How engaging. I wonder
Yeah,
how
I know. So
ends.
Tim, I understand that this might be a little above your intelligence level.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
he's just
And-
he's just trying to straw man it. He keeps trying to straw man the whole thing, which is fine, whatever. But it's more than that.
Yeah, I think the thing is this. I think my overall takeaway from this show for this season has been okay. So over the course of the series, it has gotten more and more into being a like classic silly 80s like ninja show, karate show, martial arts show, which we all loved in the 80s. See, this is what I think is really interesting, right? What I think is really interesting is that like if you got I recently went back and I watched a TV version of The Terminator with my youngest, right? And so we
There's
were
a
watching
TV
it.
version?
Well, it was The Terminator, but it was edited for TV. So
okay.
So we were watching it and he was just kind of like watching it, and there's like the scenes where he's the machine, or like the scene where he's cutting his eye out and you can tell it's clearly a mask. And I was trying to explain to him, I'm like, back in the day, this is all we had. We suspended disbelief and accepted this and thought this was cool because it was like the coolest thing we had.
It looked real. We didn't even think it was. We didn't even know it was a rubber mask. That looked real to us.
Right. And then now we look back with CGI and we look at it and we're like, how did we ever think that was, you know what I mean? But that's the way it is now. Like if you go back and watch some of these silly 80s ninjas martial arts shows, they're silly, right? They're silly to watch. That's all they're doing is they're taking that silliness and they're applying it to Cobra Kai. And so you just have to, like, I have accepted, like my son, I watched it with my 2 sons, and we, this is like our thing. We watch every single one of them. And so, in fact, my son was mad at me because while at work, while I'm eating my lunch, I watched the first episode. And then he's like, we got to watch this tonight. And I'm like, okay, watch episode 1 because I've already watched it. And so like, we were all excited to watch it. And even my son was like, this is getting a little over the top for me.
There you go.
Yeah. But my point was, I was like, you just have to accept as you're going through. It's not that they're out of ideas. They have to go somewhere. They've done 2 All Valleys. What are they supposed to do?
You can't like
stop making episodes. That's what you do.
You can't compare like this to Shakespeare, right? It's like you gotta put it in the level where it belongs.
I hate the Fast and the Furious franchise. I could give a crap about cars. I hate Vin Diesel, all that stuff. But the first movie, even though it was a ripoff of Point Break, the first movie was just the little situation, the undercover cop and everything, and they were the group that was doing the heists and stuff, the family stuff, whatever. But it was just a little cop story, and it was decently done. It was Point Break, but it was decently done. And now they're fighting submarines and they're launching off of cliffs and we're going into space and all this garbage is because the stupid concept of escalation, because you run out of ideas and so you have to just do the next scene but bigger.
That is the idea.
And that's what
the idea is. Let's make a show that constantly escalates into insanity. That is the idea.
What do you think? What do you think?
Kid ever was.
No, I'm saying.
Wait, hold on. Of course,
in the car movies.
Of course it was.
You start with a tournament, you end with a tournament.
No, Karate Kid 2.
Movie, a local tournament.
In Karate Kid 1, he's fighting in a local tournament, and in Karate Kid 2, he's in Okinawa fighting for his life with a monster and fighting a typhoon.
And then they go to the third movie, and the third movie they go back to a tournament. But
right, and guess what? And guess what?
Do I go to college or do I start a business? Yeah, all this awesome drama.
Yeah, but guess what? And guess what? Karate Kid 3, everybody agrees, was a massive step down from Karate Kid 1 and 2 because there was no escalation. The escalation.
That's not why. It's not because there was no escalation. It's because it was recycled.
Right, because you have to go somewhere, and they didn't go anywhere.
No, what you do is you just stop making content. You can tell a story and end a story. That's why the best series are ones that we said, here's the target. We're going to do this many episodes, and we know where we're going.
Listen,
and we
anybody
know where we're going after season 4.
Anybody that equates bad with recycle should not watch anything that comes from television. That is television. Yes, it is.
See, the thing is, though,
recycle from something else. What I'm saying is, like the first season of Cobra Kai we loved it, but it was all recycled stuff from the original trilogy. But it was done so well. It was a love letter.
So we can have a conversation about why it's bad or good, but you can't say just keep using the word recycle as the reason, because that's not why.
You do the same thing over and over. That's recycled.
Well,
and that's not bad.
But here's the thing, though.
If you do the same show over every single episode is the same thing.
Have you ever seen CSI? Have you ever seen Game of Thrones? It's the same show over and over.
You haven't seen all of Game of Thrones, and it's not recycled.
All you have to do
is different. That's a different.
If you have watched one episode of Law and Order, you have seen
Law and Order.
every episode of every version of Law and Order.
But that's not to say it's bad. Like, people love it, right?
Yeah. And it's been on for 30 years.
I'm not trying to develop characters. If you were saying CSI, you have characters develop, even though the formula of an episode with the different cases they're solving, but like the overall story, you're seeing growth and change in the characters.
You are.
Like we do in this, like we do in Cobra Kai.
Right.
Growth and change in the characters.
No, because you start with small cases and you end with small cases. It's the same show. It feels the same, the same stakes, but characters grow. That's interesting. This
characters grow in this season,
and it turns into the Ninja
characters
Turtle.
grew in this season.
No, characters totally.
But I'm saying the show is just blowing out of proportion. It's exaggerated and escalated and stupid. It turns cartoony and cheesy, like you said, Josh. The first
it was always cartoony and cheesy from the very first season.
No,
the difference.
Fun high school drama and fun. The high school fighting, the martial arts were a little cheesier or a little lower stakes, and that's what they should have been. And then they escalated where they should have gone the first 4 seasons, and now it's like, how can we make it bigger? Now we have the Foot Clan, and it's stupid.
Tim, who hurt you?
Do we have enough time, Josh?
What kind of childhood trauma do we have to unpack to understand why you are so angry about this situation?
I grew up good movies and good shows like The Karate Kid, and this
like
is
Superman, like
maybe
Alf's Christmas special.
Maybe is the issue that it's not in high school anymore. Maybe that's like you don't want it to move beyond the high school.
Where they go out of high school.
No, see the thing is that like
they went out of high school, it was still a decent show.
So the thing is I think that your frustration over the fact that this world has become so over the top, which I agree with, like it has become so over the top that they're like that you don't necessarily appreciate the character development, even though the character development is happening in similar circumstances as they have in other shows. You're dealing with teenagers who are constantly changing and evolving, and like all of these things that are happening. In my mind, the reason I actually kind of like the character development here is what they're doing is they're showing consequences of high school years where all of these characters made decisions that resulted in either good or bad decisions.
What's the point, though? Next week's episode, they're going to go back to bad and then back to good and then back to bad and then back to good because every character has a full arc multiple times. That's the problem.
But the thing is, though,
mainstream characters, then it's just real people, new characters so they can go through the cycle.
But Tim, real people have multiple arcs in their life all the time. That is what they're doing.
They're going through. That's not how they've done it.
You're telling me, right? Lots of people do that. Addicts do that all the time. It's called a relapse.
Like, how many times are we going to do this? How many more seasons are you willing to go, Josh?
As many times as they keep making money off from it. And like,
I know,
I get where you're coming from, Tim. Like, I dropped off the Star Wars bandwagon. I've stopped watching Star Wars. Same thing with superhero stuff. I'm like,
no, that's way different. Tim loves to hate Star Wars.
Yeah, but for certain people, this speaks to them, and I get it. Like, if as long as it has some martial arts in it, as long as it has some nostalgic 80s, even when you take it to the nth degree, people are going to like it. I like it. I mean, am I going to like, oh, this is my favorite sitcom ever? No, but it's a sitcom, man. I don't see anything particularly bad about this sitcom compared to every other sitcom I've watched. So, like, I just don't see this being any worse than Game of Thrones, for instance. Like, how formulaic it is, and all those others. Like, we just keep going back to that. But I do see character development. I do see, like, new things that they introduce. I see, like, interesting things. I'm very curious about how sooner or later they're going to have to separate these guys. Like, they're not going to be able to keep making this show with the same characters, right?
Why not?
And I think we start to see maybe there's going to be a split here. And they can't just keep adding millions of characters, right? And these kids, like, we haven't talked about it yet, but these aren't kids anymore. They never really were, right? They were never really high schoolers that they played, right? They were in their 18s and 20s, and they're starting to look their age more and more now.
Yeah, well, I think that the ultimate thing, I think there's another thing that's important to note is that this is going to be a 15-episode season broken up into 3 parts. Yeah, it's 3 parts.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I could imagine that this next 5 are going to be all about this tournament, and then the next 5 are going to be the kind of the wrap up of everything. But regardless,
this is the end.
Oh yeah, this is the last season for sure.
They said that.
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is where it wraps up. So I'm I think that ultimately we'll see where it ends up. But yeah, like I think if I were going to say this is the most over the top campy of them, but also still enjoyable, and I'm having a good time watching it. It was a lot of fun, and I just wish they would have dropped the whole thing so I could have binged it all. I like doing that. But anyway,
can I just point out real quick, as season 4, where I feel they should have dropped off on Rotten Tomatoes, season 4, 95 critic, 92 audience. Season 5, 98 critic, 92 audience. Consistent.
I didn't like season 5.
6, 86 critic and 86 audience.
Which is still really high.
Which is incredibly high.
Everyone wants more and more and more. Apparently not.
It's dropped 5 percentage points. It's terrible.
You're saying, no, I'm pointing out that this is not as well done, and it's getting recycled, it's getting watered down, it's getting stupid and boring.
So I think what you're saying
86% is not stupid and boring, Tim. I'm sorry. So you disproved your own point.
I'm saying there's a trend. I didn't say it's a bad number. I'm saying it's a trend because there's plenty of dumb people out there that are enjoying this crap.
Yeah, most people are still enjoying it. It's a top 10 on Netflix. Nobody's saying it's a terrible show except for you.
They say that no matter what because they don't have to show their numbers. Any new series they come out, they say, "Oh, we promise it's the top 10."
You think they're making it up?
Well,
they're lying about it being the top
10. Yeah, you think they're lying about Cobra Kai being in the top 10?
Sure.
Oh, the conspiracy! Let the conspiracy begin.
Once again, this is the stuff where it's like, okay, Tim, your credibility is starting to.
You don't think that Netflix promotes their own internal stuff and they put that in the top 10 just suggests to you that everyone in the world is watching it, even though they don't have to share their numbers? You don't think that ever happens?
I don't think it happens with Cobra Kai. No.
Probably not. I'm not saying Cobra Kai, I guess, but I'm saying
I don't think it does because it's in their interest to get rid of shows that people are watching.
Yeah, no, that's the thing though. It's like
invest a lot of money in.
I think what. So Tim, I think what I'm saying is this like my favorite season? No, probably not. Like so far, not by a long shot, but it's still incredibly enjoyable. Like, of course, I loved the first 3 seasons like better than, the first 4 seasons better than 5 and 6, but I still really enjoyed 5, and I'm enjoying 6.
I just want to say I just looked up every season. Every single one of them is in the 90s except for this trash in this season. And the first
this season isn't over too, so that's not exactly fair. But yeah.
Okay, you're right. They're really gonna spit it out when they do this awesome kung fu in the Cobra Kai stuff. Or in the
they might actually. I hope they do.
I know it actually.
It'd be pretty cool.
For the big reveal, I wonder if Tori's going to be a good guy at the end. I can't wait to find out.
I think this is what I think that's going to happen with Tori, and we've kind of seen it happen in the other seasons.
Because she's done this before.
She's going to. She's going. Everybody thinks she joined with John Reese, but Tori is very, very independent, and I think that she's going to actually, play him more than he plays her.
Yeah, that's possible. I think that's possible.
I mean, she may do something at the end to turn on him, but she's not gonna be a bad guy. She's just gonna.
I would actually like to see at the end of this some form of humanity from John Kreese.
You want it? I know, because you want his redemption. I don't need his redemption.
I've seen it. We've seen it already in him. But
why can't he just be a villain?
Because he's not a villain.
He can be a three-dimensional villain.
He's a warrior.
He's a villain with some depth, just like Thanos was a villain with some depth. But he's not. That doesn't.
No, he wasn't. Thanos is a terrible villain.
He had depth, man. He had. Everyone in the world disagrees with you on that.
He had wannabe depth, but yeah.
Jeez. Whatever. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Well, okay, you heard it here first, folks. Tim has called it. It's definitely over now. It's only got an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's over. This is a terrible show. Don't watch it.
By the way, Tim always tells me about how terrible Rotten Tomatoes is as a measuring scale. By the way,
it's really bad. My point wasn't that. My point isn't saying let's measure the quality. My point was that it's not as good or as favorable by the audience as the previous season.
No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I don't think it's as favorable.
I'm surprised.
Everyone loves if you have escalation. Now they're fighting the Foot
I'm
Clan.
Surprised that
more. And I said no, they're not.
I think I agreed with you that what I was saying was I agree with you that the story has gotten overblown with this massive secret tournament that people apparently didn't know about, but is also somehow on live TV. And
I know that too. It's like it was supposed to be a secret thing. It was underground that they didn't know about before, but now it's like, oh, this will look good on your college resume. I'm like,
but I mean, you could say the exact same thing, and we have said the exact same thing about the All Valley tournament. Like, it's the same thing. The All Valley tournament is nothing that anybody's ever heard of, and it's like, but it's this big, huge thing that everybody knows about, and it's the same thing.
Okay, well, Josh, before you wrap up, I want to know what you feel about this Miyagi stuff, this Miyagi spy chest that they found, because I'm just saying the entire show has just, the last 2 seasons has completely pulled this out of it's not connected to me anymore with the original Karate Kid series. This is all Disney Star Wars to me. That doesn't mean it's all bad. I enjoy it, and I would watch the first few seasons, again, not like repetitively like you and your family. But I can now watch, because of the last 2 seasons, I can now watch the first 3 movies, and I can be like, this is in universe of the 3 movies. I don't look at Chosen and Barnes and say, I know what's going to happen to them in the future. To me, it's all fan fiction for these writers. And it's good fan fiction, the first 4 seasons. But now this last 2 seasons has yanked it so far away that now it's just fan fiction. So in this world of just fan fiction, in my mind, how do you feel about this Miyagi stuff? Because I think it's just, I think it's kind of dumb. So this is a very big out of ideas idea.
So I like I said, I've decided as it's going through, because when I saw this stuff where they're like, see, it's hard to kind of put into a context without saying I'm withholding.
Yeah, despite saying earlier that you're not going to tell us because you want to see how it plays out. How do you feel about it, Josh?
No, I have an instinctive or reaction.
At first I looked at it and I was kind of like saying before Daniel said it, well, this doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? To what we know about Mr. Miyagi, like, but I think that they carried that well through Daniel by him saying, like, he kept a whole part of his life away from me that I didn't know about. Like, what? He's some sort of bad guy. Like, he might be a bad guy. And I'm just sitting there and like in my mind, as I'm watching these characters do this, I'm going like, guys, you have no idea what any of that means. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just a box full of crap. Like, who knows what it means? Oh, there's boxing gloves in there? You know what I mean? Like, what is that?
I didn't like
You know
that
what I mean?
Daniel made it about him. That's what pissed me off. He's like, how could he do this to me? I'm like, well, let's just discover what this about his history. Let's worry about that. Not, oh my gosh, he hid secrets from me.
Tim's son made a hilarious joke. I gotta share it with you. Tim's goes when he said that, he's like, why does he have to tell you what happened? Is he like, oh, wax all my cars, and when you're done, I'll tell you this story about how I robbed a necklace. It's like, what? What does that have to do with it? But
like, why does he feel betrayal?
Right, but I think I trust the writers. Look, here's what I would say. The writers, to me, have always shown that they have massive respect for the series and Mr. Miyagi's legacy. I don't think that they would do anything to tarnish that. If what they're doing is trying to bring him some depth, I'm willing to see where this goes out for the rest of the season and withhold judgment by the end. But I'm not
sold.
I'm not loving where it's going so far.
Famous last words of Rian Johnson right there.
And I was all right with that with Rian Johnson. I'm okay with you taking the wizard character, which is what Mr. Miyagi is, and making him have a background where it's like, oh, maybe he had some past, and that's okay. He grew out of it. And instead of, like you said, adding some depth to his character, I'm perfectly fine with that. It doesn't destroy his legacy just because.
What were they saying? He had a brother. What was? I know the tournament thing because of the bandana, and he was a captain. But were they saying he had a brother? Is that what they said?
Something like that.
Well, yeah, it looked like they were saying either he had a brother or he had two identities. Like that's what it seemed like to me.
It wasn't
like they
clear.
were saying, yeah, it wasn't super clear.
Now, Josh, didn't you say that they were going to tie in the Jaden Smith or the next Karate Kid into this? Didn't you say something like?
They had said that they considered the next Karate Kid as part of the canon, and that it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that the Hilary Swank character would show up in the series.
Wow.
But they said that years and years and years ago. Like it was like second season that they said that. So
maybe show a cameo. It's kind of late for it to be something big. But
okay, Josh, tell me Easter eggs. Hit me with them. Other than Sato's board, which I was in the other room while Lance was watching it, and then I heard the board break. I'm like, did he break the beam? I was so mad about that.
The rubber beam.
Actually,
not have broken the beam.
So actually, I got to tell you, the only real Easter eggs, and I'd have to go back and watch it again. Usually when we do these, I've watched it actually a couple times before just to like, and then I do the Easter eggs when we do this episode by episode, but we're not going to do that.
Them, come on.
Well, true, but
I'm oblivious.
No, but we've already kind of talked about one, and the other one was chosen chopping the wood. Those were the two that I caught that were and then there were some that we talked about the throwbacks to other 80s films. Like there was a best of the best show there, which I thought was funny how he threw out. He was like his shoulder was totally obliterated because that was part of the best of the best one. They're in like a 5-on-5 karate tournament, and he gets his shoulder dislocated. And then he pops it back into place and finishes the fight to win, so his team could win. And then the next season is like his shoulder's fine, no problems, And so,
I like back breaking and stuff. Lance made a joke when they were fighting. He's like, just punch him in the back.
Yeah, I said punch him in the back. He has a weak spine now.
Well, I wonder actually if that's going to come into play during the tournament because Kreese knows about it, right? And Tori knows about it. I wonder if that comes into play. But anyway,
did you like that fight, Josh?
What fight?
The Miguel and
Robbie, where Robbie won.
Yeah, right. The kid I hated the whole time. Yeah.
The actual fighting or the
way? Just the whole thing.
I thought it was a good.
I think the fighting. I don't agree with Lance that it's gotten better. I think it's kind of like now.
I thought it was
2 or 3.
I thought it was good. I thought I liked that Robbie won. Because I think Robbie really like the part where Robbie says to Miguel, What? So just because I don't go to college, I don't need this? I think that Robbie was really trying to say, I need this more. Like his why was bigger than Miguel's why. Because Robbie's fighting this whole thing. Look, he lives in West Valley or whatever it is, right? Where they're at. I mean, he's seeing Sam and Miguel and Dimitri and Hawk and all these people having all these options, and he and Tori are connecting because they really don't have those. And so
Right.
this is his big thing. This is his Stanford, his MIT, is getting to be the captain here. So the fact that he
Right.
won, I think
Which is kind of sad, but yeah.
The football team, and this is my last hurrah before I go into the real world, and I'm going to be serving.
I'm going to peak in high school, so let me peak.
Yeah.
Well, and also the thing was, I thought it was really good that Miguel got up and they agreed, like, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Which
that's because Miguel's a great kid, and he has been the whole time. Robbie's been a dick. I don't like Robbie.
Yeah, Miguel has not been a good kid the whole time. He was a dick in the first season. He turned into Cobra Kai, which is what turned Johnny into.
Coming over it is every one of us has done that. That doesn't make you a bad kid. Robbie embraced the dark side, and he's turned back and forth multiple times. He's the one with the juvie record. He's the one that broke Miguel's back when Miguel backed off at the last minute and said, "I'm not going to do this." And then Robbie cheap shot at him.
But the point is, though, I don't think Robbie's a bad kid either. This all goes back to the Mr. Miyagi sign. It all goes back to Mr. Miyagi's first saying: "It's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher." You know what I mean?
His dad.
His dad abandoned him, was drunk for most of his life. He's trying to repair that.
Predictions. What do you think is going to happen? I have 3.
Well, hold on. One thing that about the fights that kind of, like, I was hoping, I want to see one of these fights where the end fight they win 1-3 rather than it's down to the last point. And I almost thought they were going to do that. I almost thought they were going to do where Miguel just totally wipes Robbie out, because wasn't it at one point it was 2-0?
Robbie had,
and I was like, they're gonna go 3-0. Here it goes.
Robbie saw Tori and he was inspired.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of silly. Silly.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know what you think. I have 3 things I think are gonna happen. Go ahead. Where you want mine first?
So yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you should always go first in these situations. Get it all out. Maybe then you won't interrupt. Okay, go ahead.
1 hour later.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear your predictions. I'm interested in what you think is going to happen. So it's going to get worse. It's not going to be good. It's going to be terrible.
Now this is all cliche. This is all predictable stuff now. But I don't know who's going to win what fights or whatever. I don't care about that, because the tournament is that's just the backdrop for these terrible character dramas. I think Hawk is going to go with Dimitri to MIT or whatever. I think that Sam's going to stay or hang out with Miguel. I think the end sequence on the last episode, or at least the cliffhanger of the second to last episode, is going to be Johnny's baby being born. And this is kind of obvious, and they're going to have some kind of a callback to when he was in that restaurant with Miguel, where when Robbie was being born and he wasn't there for his wife and he went drinking or whatever the story was. They're going to do something with that where he's going to be present at the birth, but they're going to make a callback to that story. And I think Johnny's going to end up teaching Miyagi-Do with whatever they end up calling it. Not some weird compromise, but he's going to be teaching his thing. And I think Robbie's going to stay or teach with him. I think they're going to turn into the father-son tradition that it used to be. Miyagi was father-son tradition until he brought in Sato. Chosen is going to go back, obviously, with Yukie. Yukie? No. Kumiko. Yeah, Yukie was Miguel.
I think he already left. He's already gone now.
I think he left to explore. He left to explore the background of Mr. Miyagi in Okinawa. Is what I got.
Is that what he did? Yeah,
that's what I got out of it.
But he called her. He had the conversation about not giving up or whatever. So he was like, and they had that conversation about Kumiko. So
I think he's going back to Miyagi's.
I think you're right. He's going to come back with some information or something. And I think John. I don't think there's going to be this. Tori's going to obviously be redeemed at the end. She's going to pull a Darth Vader throwing Palpatine over the the ledge, kind of not killing John Kreese, but she's going to turn on him, just like Johnny did in the first movie. It's going to be like that I don't know who you are anymore moment, because even though they've already done that 3 times, including with Tori. LaRusso is going to go back to selling cars and just be proud of his kids. And
Loser.
I don't think anything else is going to really happen with it. What's the black kid's name? Kenny and his brother.
You guys have totally forgotten about the Asian girl. She was a big part of the story.
Well, I don't. They introduced her at the end of the last episode, and they've already redeemed her. So it's like,
have they? They haven't redeemed her. She's like,
she's trying to get on the football team. She already had her redemption from being a bad guy.
But
she was a bad guy in the last season, but she's come back to Miyagi because everyone does. And I think that's kind of it. I think Johnny's going to take over the school or teaching. I don't think they're going to shut it down. He's going to start teaching. And Tori's going to, Tori and Robbie are going to be together. And who am I missing? That's it. Red Johnny. I think Daniel's going to step out of it. I don't care about the Miyagi stuff. I don't have a thought about where that goes. I don't care what they do. Whatever they do, I'm not going to be offended because the whole thing's this is all fan fiction. But those are my predictions off the top of my head from what I was thinking about when I watched it.
Okay. Lance, do you have any other predictions?
My predictions are very simple.
I'm going to hate
it. one of these 3 people are going to be introduced. Jean-Claude Van Damme, which would be awesome.
Expendables is where Lance
that would be so awesome, actually.
Steven Seagal might make a cameo.
Oh, please.
Or I mean, this one's probably going to happen. Is they're going to have Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's going to be in it sooner or later.
I think you might be right about that. I really
do.
Or
Jaden. I think it would be awesome if all of the other teams from the thing were like
the Chinese.
The senseis were like Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jackie Chan, like anybody
straight to 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, just with that.
No. But don't get 99%.
No, and if Sylvester Stallone was one, that'd be awesome too.
Anyway,
just Arnold. Because Arnold, another one. No, I think if I were going to make a prediction, I think at some point John Kreese shows his humanity at some point and gets redeemed a little bit.
Didn't he do that in the last season?
I think he dies. I think they kill him and he gets redeemed.
Remind me what happened, Josh, with Terry. He turned on Terry Silver at the very end.
No. Well, he did, but Terry turned on him and framed him by beating up Stingray to get him in prison.
Didn't something happen? Oh, that's right. But didn't something happen in a tournament or something where John?
John Kreese showed mercy to Johnny, and that was the whole point. Terry said, your one weakness is Johnny.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they kind of play that in this one too a little bit.
Yeah, they alluded to it
in the vision.
So I think another prediction is, I think you're right. I think Johnny ends up running the karate studios, the dojos. I think Miguel does get into Stanford and Sam goes with him. I think this is not a prediction, more of like the one way I would be okay with Hilary Swank showing up is if she showed up to somehow help redeem Tori. Because if you watch
something.
Well, no, not as an aunt, not as a related, but like as somebody who shows up, because her story arc was she was a troubled teenager. They called Mr. Miyagi to come in and watch her and turned her from being like this bad girl to kind of being a peaceful girl in Miyagi-Do and turned her life around. So it might make sense to have Hilary Swank come in and be the one after the tournament to redeem Tori from all these terrible things and kind of bring her to the Miyagi-Do way. But anyway,
the best thing for Tori is if she ended up, and they can't really write this at this point, but if she was to go be taken care of by Allie. Allie taking care of Tori would be just
Who's Allie? Oh, the first girl?
The girlfriend from the first movie.
That would make zero sense.
I know, but it would be so good for Allie. Just get her away from all this crap and just have a good, solid, awesome girl to raise her and mentor her.
Yeah,
you can't write it. I'm just saying, it would be stupid. That would be awesome.
Yeah, let's get her to the one who fell in love with a football player out of UCLA instead of being with Daniel.
Oh, stop
No.
it. No, go back to her cameo in Cobra Kai. She was a very
I-
well-collected, mature, and wise
Going
woman.
going through a divorce. Anyway, so
Oh, no,
yeah.
we're not divorced. That means they're terrible.
I don't hate Hilary Swank as much as you guys do. Her character, whoever it was, but
I
whatever.
was just mad that they even made the movie. It was fine, but it was not.
I
up
don't
to
remember it.
snuff.
I need to rewatch it. It's been so long. But I remember when I watched it, I was like, meh.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
All right, go ahead.
I think that Daniel goes back to the dealership. I think with Kenny, that's the one I'm actually really interested to see what happens with Kenny, because he was the one who was real tentative. In fact, it was his brother who convinced him to give that stuff a shot. And which was interesting because he was so angry, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he was like, they actually didn't really try to hurt you that much. Maybe you should go hang out with them.
He was saying this isn't you. Like he's the one that's a rough kid. And he's like, he was a good younger brother, and he's like, well, I've changed.
Yeah.
And the brother was like, dude, don't do this. Like, don't go down this.
And they referenced their dad who was serving overseas, so it would be interesting to see his dad show up. And be a part of that too, but yeah, as far as
just kidding,
he's dead.
Too soon.
Very frustrated about that. Yeah. As far as the Asian girl, I can't remember her name. I think she comes clean. I think what happens with Kenny is Kenny tries to attack Anthony, thinking he's the one who did it, and she finally comes clean at that point, and she suffers consequences for that. It'd be interesting if that happened during the tournament somehow.
Is Kenny in the tournament? He made it, right?
He's not.
Kenny?
No, he didn't make it.
So it'd be stupid to even have any interaction with Kenny at this point.
Yeah, he didn't make it because
he's got the runs.
Yeah, he didn't make it.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think Hawk ultimately does go to MIT with Dimitri.
Yeah.
And I think that would be.
I don't think so. I think the reason they did that is to show that you don't have to be an MIT to be the best of the best. It's okay to go into a lower, and that's kind of why I don't know. But we'll see.
Like
it actually
be together.
It actually would be cool if maybe Dimitri decided to not go to MIT.
Yeah, and went to the lower college just to be with his friend. That'd be interesting.
Like maybe he doesn't get into MIT, and
right?
Then
he's like, we'll both go to community college and party and beat up.
And then who else is there? I think I hope Sam just like disappears completely.
But for the record, I love
she gets
Sam.
pregnant.
But I do think I think it actually ends with Johnny having his kid and actually marrying Carmen. I think it'd be a nice end where they're at Carmen and Johnny's wedding.
I don't think they need a wedding. I think the birth is going to be enough. I think
that'd be
couple
maybe.
Scenes.
Yeah, maybe. And and I think with this Miyagi thing, I think what they end up figuring out, I think if I was to predict right now, I have to go back and watch and see because maybe I wasn't super clear whether that was a brother or an alter ego. But I would not be surprised if you find out that he had a brother who actually died in the tournament, and that's what turned him away from not wanting to fight in tournaments.
That'd be cool. I like that.
That'd be an interesting way to see.
Or was his brother Jackie Chan, who's the character from Karate Kid, Mr. Han?
Because all agents are related, right?
Or perhaps. Oh, this is what I think it might have been. I think what it might have been was that it was not Mr. Miyagi who was in that fight, in that tournament. His brother was in the tournament, and that was his brother was the captain, and his brother died.
Yeah.
His brother died in that, and which is why he didn't want to do that.
And it was a boxing tournament.
Why he hates, right? Why he hates
the death boxing fight.
So I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if that's the
end. Actually really good. I think that's really smart.
Yeah,
and that would be interesting to do if they're going to do anything with this background stuff. That would be interesting.
So it may end up turning up that he actually had a brother who was also there, and all this secret stuff is not about Mr. Miyagi, but about his brother. And but then you have to figure out why the hell did he never say anything about a brother? But then again, I mean, he
But
didn't
why
say
should
anything.
he?
Yeah, but then again,
Again, why?
he didn't say anything about his dad until his dad was sick and
I was
dying.
gonna say he had his son. He only talked about him when he was drunk. He never
Right.
talked to Daniel for the sober mind about his son. It was when he was drunk that he brought it up, and they never talked about it ever again. So
Or his
maybe,
wife.
what's that?
Yeah, his
And
wife.
or his wife, and he never talked
Yeah.
about Yukie or Sato or any of that until he was
But,
having to
but
go
when
back to
but in
Okinawa.
Karate Kid 2, he openly told them more of that story. But his son and his wife, they never talked about it outside of when he was drunk. That
Yeah,
one
that's
scene is the
true.
only time it ever came up. So I think
I don't know. The one
that's
thing,
what Miyagi does is he compartmentalizes his remorse like that.
the only thing
it.
I'll say is that they did hint at a little bit of like some immigration issues. I think that will come out a little bit more because that's a hot topic right now and everything. So,
Well, that was
and they
Karate
kind of
Kid 2
hinted
we
at
talked
that.
about that.
So I think they'll do something with that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, okay. Well, that's our review. Shocking. Tim has very fiery opinions and voiced them. So if you, if you like
Seasons 1
hearing,
through 4, fantastic. Seasons 5
yeah,
and 6, I'm like, okay, we're done. Let's go.
yeah. So if you want to hear, let's see, we've gone about an hour and 40. If you want to hear Tim talk for an hour and 30, you can. And yeah, so
I didn't talk most of the time, you jerks.
anyway, well, all right. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate it. And now, so Lance, did you start a podcast?
Yeah, I have a podcast called This Is Not Sunday School. It's a religious podcast where we discuss topics that don't belong in Sunday school. So if
Oh,
that's your
that's
thing,
fun.
check it out.
Oh, that'll be awesome. And then Tim, how's Wild Discussions?
Wild Discourse and Wild
Yeah.
Thoughts are my two channels, and I haven't been doing anything for about a year, but I'm gonna start doing some recordings now. I'm trying to get some guests lined up to discuss some topical things, politics,
review
religious things. Yeah.
good reviews of cereal. You gonna do that?
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to check out some reviews of cereals that are not
Hey,
on the shelves
people
anymore,
love
go
that,
check
man.
out my channel. I know.
People love
My
the
biggest hit
cereal
was
reviews.
the Siwa cereal. That was like lots of people watched that. My kids were showing their friends and stuff. It got popular with my 60
nice.
views or something. But no, Wild Discourse and Wild Thoughts are the two channels.
Spelled WILDE.
Yeah, link in the description below, right, Josh?
That's right. I'll link your stuff for sure. I'll remember.
Do you not do that with your guests? What kind of a host are you?
No, I do. I do that. I do that with my.
Anyway, here's my guest. Get out of here.
No, I'll for sure. I do that for my important guests. So I'll do that for
You're like, Tim, you don't have content in the air. I don't put the link below.
Yeah.
No,
I only put it.
Though you should push Lance's. When I get mine going, you can have me back. How about that?
So Lance,
you don't have to push it. It's up to you if you want to push it or not. If you Google, it's on YouTube. Is all I've got it on.
I bet a lot of people. You're just on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is a YouTube podcast. I don't know exactly how that works, but yeah.
It works.
And we're gonna talk about the King Follett discourse is gonna be the next episode. I'm excited about it because that's like Joseph Smith's seminal, right before he died speech. So, and it's got some good meaty stuff in there.
Yeah, it does. That's an interesting one. I'll definitely listen to that. So, all right. Well, guys, it's good to see you. And Lance, I'll have to get you Matthew Harris's email. I bet he'd love to come on there and talk about that stuff. You should.
Yeah, I think about it. I'm kind of selfish with this podcast. I'm not doing guests. It's just me talking, so that no one can talk over me. No,
Tim, if you get your thing going and get some episodes down, I'll put you in touch with him. He'd love to talk to you for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So anyway,
I don't feel worthy to have someone like that on my podcast, but yeah, it's cool that you guys talk to him. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good one. We email back and forth now. We're kind of friendly now. Him and I and Patrick, we kind of every once in a while.
I loved your podcast with him. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, Patrick and I have actually been talking about doing a podcast with Tony Overbay and doing talking about faith crisis from a real scholarly and then a therapeutic
Cool.
perspective. So they kind of talk together how it works theologically and also therapeutically.
Nice.
And
Cool.
how you would handle that. And I just think that'd be a really interesting discussion. I probably wouldn't talk at all. I'd just be like, you guys talk. You guys figure this out. Figure out how we get this to work. Because I don't know about you guys.
You for your faith crisis, Josh.
Yeah. I'm not in crisis anymore. I've accepted.
I'm teasing. I know you're not.
Yeah. I know where I fall.
I told one of my fans that everyone is in a faith crisis secretly somewhere in some way. So yeah.
Well, isn't that really what repentance is, right? I mean, it's kind of getting back in, so makes sense. Anyway, different discussion for a different time, but all right. So that
changed the mood a little bit.
Yeah, didn't it? Yeah. Well, I'll go back. Tim, you're dumb. There.
Yeah.
Those Cobra Kai seasons 5 and 6.
All right, guys. Well, for those who listen, subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having us.